super excited about Nicole and what she was going to bring to the table to top everyone's presentation from last week. So we had one more presentation to do for group 3. So we'll jump into that, let you finish, and then we'll kind of talk about what we're going to work on the rest of the night. So I will turn it over to you.
Well, it's going to be like I'm hearing this for the first time in a week because I have not reviewed it since last week. I'm actually still flipping through my notebook to find it, so hang on. My partner here?
Who is your partner?
Brian.
Brian? Yep, he's here. So
As we
what
split up,
were your subjects? Do you remember?
Great question.
I can look them up.
Arthritis, and I don't remember what Nicole had.
Arthritis, and was it metabolic syndrome?
That's it.
Yes.
That's the thing.
That's the one. That's the one I've been looking for. Okay.
I'll get there. Sorry, I'm unprepared. I completely forgot.
You're good. No problem. Jennifer, nice hairdo. Was it like that last week? Did I miss that last week?
It's a very like boom in your face on camera. It's not this loud in person. I don't know why it does this, but I feel like a fire truck and it does not feel like that in the day-to-day non-virtual world.
Well, I didn't think fire truck
back
when I saw it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's good.
So you're good.
Yeah. Brian, you want to go? I'm still trying to find where in my notebook I made all these notes.
Chat GPT, just ask real quick, tell you what you need to say.
Oh, snap.
It's out there for you.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Your friend.
I found it. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so metabolic syndrome. My resources were the Mayo Clinic, American Heart Association, and a little bit from Johns Hopkins. And metabolic syndrome is basically that you defines it as a cluster of conditions that occur together, increasing risk. Those are the main things. There's also concern for diseases related to fatty buildup in the arteries. These cluster of conditions are blood pressure, high blood sugar, excess body fat around the midsection, the waist, low levels of good abnormal cholesterol, low levels of good cholesterol or abnormal cholesterol, and triglyceride levels. And it also said that it's more common in the body shape that is an apple or pear. So there are some people that maybe are going to be more likely just based on body type. The main symptoms, again, go back to those cluster of conditions, which is weight around the waist, high blood sugar, or diabetes-like symptoms like increased thirst, fatigue, blurred vision, insulin resistant, and a sedentary lifestyle. When diagnosed, you also can be at a serious chance or a serious concern for cardiovascular disease as well. And the risk factors are age increased. Oddly enough, it does say that Hispanic women in the US, but they didn't have a reason for that. It said the reason is unclear. Obesity, diabetes, and there's a few other risk factors that can put you there. Prevention would be physical activity recommended 30 minutes a day, eating well, lean protein, fruits and vegetables, limiting your saturated fats and salts, and maintaining a healthy weight and not smoking. No
Very
problem.
cool. Very cool. Yeah. So I actually had that same note. It says the population that has the highest rate of metabolic syndrome is Mexican Americans. Just FYI, just for your info. And it's followed closely by white people. Yay. So excited about that. Okay. Next is arthritis.
So arthritis, I got my research from the Mayo and Cleveland clinics, and it is the breakdown of cartilage or swelling in the cartilage. The risk is family history, age, sex, your joint history, injuries, obesity, activity level, and tobacco use. Causes is really just age and genetics. Treatments is anti-inflammatory medicines, physical therapy, surgery, diet, low impact exercises, and avoid tobacco use. Symptoms would be swelling, joint pain, tenderness, and stiffness. And then there's a couple different types, but the most common is osteoarthritis. That's what I got there.
Nailed it. Good job. Yeah. Another one just for your information. I do remember this just from my studies when I was studying for the exam. Stress management was a preventative as well for arthritis. Don't ask me how, don't ask me why. Apparently there's something to it with stress triggering arthritis. Okie doke. Okay, so we talked about lipids last time, but just to go over the numbers, can anybody tell me what LDL is? LDL. Just get my singing voice ready, Todd. Just trying to warm up. Don't nobody know what LDL is.
It's the type of cholesterol that you want to keep low. That's all I got.
Yeah, basically. LDL, they consider it the bad cholesterol. There's a lot of different research into that doesn't necessarily make it bad. It's just the number you definitely want to keep an eye on for sure. What do you want that number to be? What or less? My dogs have thumbs. They just opened the door.
Pretty sure you want it to be less than 1,000.
Well, you definitely want it less than 1,000.
Way less than
Yeah.
1,000, I'm
I
guessing.
think it's less than 100.
There it is. 100 or less is what you want it to be. Or sorry, less than 100, basically, yeah. Okay, what about HDL?
It's the good cholesterol, and you want the number to be high.
Higher than what?
Mm.
You want it greater to or equal
I
to?
want to say 70, but I think I'm probably wrong.
You're not far off. Go down a little bit.
60.
60. There it is. So if it is 70, you're good. So the questions that they kind of will put on the test, it's something like they'll fluff it up. Remember how Todd talked about that? They'll say something about the age. They'll talk about he likes to play tennis. He wears his shoes too tight and his socks too high, blah, blah, blah. And his HDL level is 40. That's what you want to zone in on. It's going to have stuff like that. They're going to kind of fluff it up and make you distracted, but you want to make sure you know these numbers. Triglycerides. Whew. That was a hard one. What about that one? You want it to be less than what? And remember, make sure you get all your info when you're studying from the CDC guidelines. That's where they get their information for the test. Triglycerides. Come on and tell me about. Less than 150. Okay. mgs over DLs. Okay. Total cholesterol. Y'all know this number, right? I want it below what? You definitely want it below 1,000.
200.
200. There it is. Just like Todd said. All right. Good job. All right. So that's just a review. Make sure you know those numbers because that definitely is on the test. We don't necessarily go into huge hardcore details in the class because it's as fun as watching paint dry, having to listen to somebody spit out a bunch of numbers at you. But things you do want to know about: hypertension, diabetes, cholesterol levels. You want to know some information on weight loss in general. So let me pull these slides up for you because this is important. Share my screen. There you go. Okay, so weight loss, what you should look for. So if you have a client that is wanting to lose weight and they are looking at different programs out there, what do you do as a coach?
Restate the question again. Sorry.
As a coach, if somebody is wanting to lose weight, what do you do? Let's start with this. What do you not do as a coach?
Well, I was gonna say maybe find out what they already know or what they've already explored because there's so many different weight loss diets and options, then they may have already explored some things that didn't work out for them, but not prescribed.
Yeah. Maybe some EPE, find out what they've done, find out what they know. Sorry, somebody just walked in. My mom's coming to get her dog. She just walked in, the dogs are going crazy. Yeah, so find out what they know. But then what are some areas, and this is going to be a dead giveaway because the bullets are right there for you. What are some things that you want to do as a coach when you're asking them about the things they know? What kind of education they have around it? What's the time around the program that they may be looking into? Are they doing it on their own? Are they going and paying for Weight Watchers? What are they doing? Explore those different avenues. But you as a coach are not recommending, right? So we're not there to tell them, oh, go try Zepbound. It's great. You'll quit eating, right? That's not what you want to do. Okay. So slow and steady, sustainment over time. You want to make sure that the programs address things like that. Make sure the education is there. What about physical activity? You know the guidelines for that?
$150 minutes.
150 minutes. How many times? There's more to that. Any guesses? It's just right here in front of you.
3? Is it 3?
So you want 150 minutes total. somewhere between 150 to 300 is good a week at moderate intensity. There are a few different things on CDC that will explain what moderate intensity means. You'll want to make sure you know that. And you need to know the difference in that versus high intensity. Also, know the difference in aerobic activity versus anaerobic activity. Some little tidbits there. And then also make sure you know for older adults that there can be some things that you may have to adjust. So when they're talking about, hey, I want to start jogging again, as a coach, you talk to them about it, talk to them about their strengths, what are things that they're interested in. And if jogging seems like something that might hurt them, have that discussion with them, talk to them about what does that look like for you. If you're not able to jog, what are some other options? Okay, so that just gives you some general stuff. And then sleep. Sleep is a big one as well. Make sure that you read up on sleep on the CDC guidelines. These are just some of the benefits and some of the things it could lead to if you don't get adequate sleep. Heart disease and blood pressure being right there at the top. Diabetes. And then sleep hygiene, make sure you read a little bit on that. Like I said, this is like watching paint dry on the wall, so we're not gonna like sit here and go through it all. You guys know what you know about certain things and what you probably need to read up on. Any questions about that so far? The other part is going to go into nutrition on the exam a little bit. But again, as coaches, you're not a nutritionist, you're not a dietary subject matter expert or anything like that. But they do go by the standards of CDC and the myplate.gov when it comes to nutrition. So just make sure you know the stats on myplate.gov. And it'll go into what a healthy eating plate is. You don't need all that mess. All right. So that's sort of short, sweet, to the point on just some things we didn't get a chance to touch on last week because we ran out of time. Any questions on biometrics and behavioral recommendations from CDC? Super exciting, right? Sade's over there like having a party. She's so excited.
I was going to ask, aside CDC, is there any other guidelines that we need to know, or just stick to CDC?
Stick to CDC.
Okay.
And you could literally, I made this mistake. Don't do this. I made this mistake of literally going through every single tab of CDC, printing off everything and making this huge, massive book full of printed out CDC guidelines for every little thing. Don't do all that. Make sure you just know the basics, right? Blood pressure. What is cardiovascular disease? What is diabetes? What are the numbers for that? I don't know, those are top of my head, but like make sure you just know the basics, right? Understand those concepts and that'll get you a long way. It doesn't expect you to know every little thing about every disease and every behavioral outcome. So lesson learned the hard way on my part, and a lot of trees died that day. All right. So I am going to shift over. So what we're going to do tonight, it's going to be a lot more discussion. So get your discussion pants on because it's going to get exciting. We're going to get to talk more tonight. I'm going to let Todd kind of work through some ways of studying and some areas that you can start to focus in on if you think you need a little more help. And then we will talk about moving forward in your careers, maybe some of the questions you have. We'll also talk a little bit about expectations as far as getting to graduate next Saturday, which everybody's Good. We're fine. We'll just go over those one more time. And then we will, I don't remember what we're going to do. I'll look at my notes and I'll tell you later. It's going to be a surprise for now. Okay. So Todd, all you, brother.
Yeah, we just spent all this time on this health and wellness stuff, and that's roughly 17 to 23% of the exam. And the exam, it's that board exam, 150 questions, that type of thing. How many people have taken that type of test before? Yeah. How many people have like developed test taking strategies for themselves? Who likes to read the answers first before they read the question? No, there's different strategies in what works for you. And I'm going to give everybody real quick. I'm going to share a sample question. And on the exam, because it's 4 hours long, 150 questions, you have approximately 62 seconds per question. I'm just kidding. I didn't do the math, but I just want you to look at the question, read the question, and just A, B, C, or D, throw your answer into the chat. Nobody's answering. Is everybody got some A's? We got a B. And the correct answer in this case is A. That 23.5, that falls right into the normal healthy range of the BMI. And the reason, for this is when we look at this question, it's a type of question. It's just asking for a simple definition type answer, and the focus of the client is the client wants to know, they're curious. They want to know whether their BMI is normal or not. And there's some distractors in this question, like the fourth session. The focus of the question has nothing to do with what session it is. That whole history of high blood pressure and diabetes doesn't play into the factor. So when we're reading these questions, and I'll talk about some other ones in other areas, there's oftentimes there's fluff in the question for when you get to it. And that's the BMI portion of it. And then next, I'm going to talk a little bit about coaching process. And when you think about these, you may want to wait. And I'm not telling you how to do it, but wait your study time, because the medical information, the stuff that we just got done going over, is 17 to 23% of the exam. And now we're talking about coaching process. And generally speaking, that's 47 to 53% of the exam. So you may want to develop that as you go into your study process. And when we talk about that coaching process, it's going to break it down into some areas. That the coach is going to hold the view that the client's the expert on their own life. The coach is a change facilitator through the empowerment of the client, that self-discovery. It's that guiding style. Process is non-directive as we go through it. And part of that coaching relationship, that coaching process, is the coach is going to create a safe, collaborative space for the client to explore. And the coach is going to display that unconditional positive regard towards the client. some other key qualities when we're focusing on this process. The coach is going to consistently, you're going to elicit those perspectives, and we're going to honor that autonomy, that understand that the client has freedom of choice. We're going to sit there and through this whole process, we can look at somebody, and if you just do what I tell you to do, we're going to understand that they got the freedom of choice. And we're really looking to, through this process and building this relationship, build that intrinsic motivation, that internal motivation, that real intrinsic, let's call it real motivation, that stuff that comes from within somebody, to build that self-efficacy as they move forward. And how do we do this? Somebody rattle off, popcorn out some coaching skills. Basically, the things that we do while we're coaching. What are some coaching skills?
Listening.
Active listening. What else we got going on?
Reflections.
Reflections. Nailed it. You got one more and you got the big three.
Pulling out strengths.
Yeah, expanding the conversation, pulling out those strengths. But as coaches, we have something about us. It's we're using we got that other focused listening doing on. We're reflective.
EPE.
EPE is another skill set that we have, along with brainstorming. But what I'm looking for is just that coaching presence. You know, that, and that is something that, you know, it really goes a long way to that trust, that rapport, that relationship, because what that presence does is it really allows that client to feel heard, listened to, and it's vital to the coaching process that as we go through the coaching process. And we have those other skills. We're able to refocus the conversation through interrupt and redirect, bottom lining, use some scaling questions. And we're really using that mindful listening, or that others focused listening. We're listening to understand. We're not listening to answer. And when we talk about coaching presence, you know, we draw that out through our body language, our word choice, you know, even the inflection, the emotional tone in our voice, the eye contact that we generate, and just that general energetic field that we have, you know, that ability that we have as coaches to hold space, that presence, that capacity to be with rather than be there doing something. We're just there with them. We're holding that space. And then when we talk about reflections, what types of reflections we got? We got big categories, and then we got some subcategories under each one of these. What are the two big categories of reflections?
Simple.
Simple. And as opposed to simple, we have
Complex.
Complex, simple and complex reflections. And underneath simple reflections, there's three types of simple reflections. Anybody remember what they are?
Parroting.
Parroting.
That's all I got for you right now.
And then how about if you take my words and you change the words slightly? What are we doing?
Paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing. And then I just talk for 3 minutes straight and you give it back to me in 20 seconds. What's that?
Summary.
Summarizing. Yeah. And then we get into complex reflections, and we got a bunch of them, but what's one, a complex reflection, you know, that, you know, we're giving equal weight to both sides of, maybe some ambivalence, or maybe someone's thinking about changing. They can see the benefits in changing, the benefits in not. What type of reflection is that?
Double-sided.
Double-sided reflection. I really enjoy sitting on the couch after work and petting my dog. And I know I'm getting old and I should be more active. You know, we use and in those double-sided reflections because that's what's on the equal-sided weight instead of but. And we always want to try and end on that side of change, you know, increase that change walk. What are some other ways we can reflect that's complex? Do we always have to use words to reflect? No. So what's a way to reflecting without using words?
Nonverbal communications.
Yeah, that nonverbal, you know, that body language, those facial expressions. And anybody that's ever had me as a mentor, what's my favorite type of reflection? This is not an exam question, but what's my favorite type of reflection?
Nodding.
I do a lot of that, but I actually use words for this one. It's
Uh,
what's one of the driving forces of change? Our own values, our own emotions. My favorite reflection is values inferred and emotional reflections, to be able to recognize and affirm that emotion that they're feeling, to be able to recognize those values. That's another type of complex reflection. And then we have affirmations and acknowledgments that are also complex reflections. Coaching, we do a lot of inquiry too, right? This is all part of process. What's the two big types of inquiry we do in coaching?
Open-ended questions?
Open-ended questions. And then we have another type of question that we really don't use a lot, but it can be useful at certain times in like transitions and things. What's that other type of question? Generally elicits a yes or no response, or maybe answered with yes or no.
Closed.
Closed-ended questions, yeah. We got those open-ended questions that allow us to explore, dig a little deeper, generally elaborate a more in-depth response. And then you got closed-ended questions. Somebody can, yep, nope. And believe it or not, if you give people the opportunity to say a simple yes or no, they're a lot of times they're going to take it. Another tool we got is metaphor. What's a metaphor do for a coach? Why are metaphors useful?
Does it make you present something in a positive light using
Yeah,
words?
it can present something in a positive light. It can create some enlightenment for the client. It can help give that client some insight into their unique perception of their situation. And, you know, when we talk about, you know, we're building that rapport, we're building that trust, you know, one of the things around metaphors, people use metaphors quite often. And when a client uses a metaphor, it's oftentimes useful for us just to latch onto it and carry it forward, maybe bring that metaphor back to them later on in the session. And by the same token, sometimes as a coach, we're going to use metaphors and they're going to land flat. And we can't be so stuck on ourselves that you're going to keep trying to drive that same that same point home. We got to be able to let that go. We're reading the client, that looking for that part of the communication that may be nonverbal, letting us know that that metaphor didn't maybe work. All right, brainstorming. You know, we've all heard of the term brainstorming. You know, when it comes to coaching, there's some pretty specific parameters around brainstorming. let's brainstorm. No. What are some of the parameters around brainstorming that we're gonna use?
We ask the client's permission to brainstorm with them.
Ask the client's permission to brainstorm. How are we going to set up brainstorming with the client?
Ask them first, like
Yep.
invite them. Is this something you're interested in talking about?
Ask them first, invite them. And if I ask somebody to explain brainstorming, I don't know what brainstorming is. Could you explain it to me?
Just explore different ideas or thoughts, suggestions, just
Yeah,
to explore.
We're going to brainstorm. You know, brainstorming, no thought is too ridiculous. You know, you're just going to throw out the ideas that pop into your head. It elicits creativity, and we're going to set some parameters around it. You know, if you don't mind, I as the coach, I'll record our ideas, and you're going to throw out an idea. I'll throw out an idea until we get 6 ideas down on a piece of paper. And then after we brainstorm and we got those 6 ideas on a piece of paper, what are we going to do with the client?
Let them decide.
Let
Have
them
make a choice.
decide. Yeah, you nailed that, Shade. What is the time, you know, like if on a coach question, you know, on the exam, they're gonna set it up though, and they may ask you, you know, what's a situation in a coaching session when you may want to break out that brainstorming tool with somebody? When's it useful to use?
When they don't have any ideas for their action step.
Yeah, when they don't have any ideas, when they're stuck. And then we got interrupt and redirect. That's just a way for us to bring it back on topic. It's a good idea with interrupt and redirect that we front load that. We set that up with the client before we even get into the coaching, and ask them what's the way you like to be interrupted and brought back on task. And we're also conscious in our minds, you know, of when are they off tangent, or when is something that the client's saying being beneficial to them to move them forward. All right. Another part of the coaching process, SMART goals and smarter action steps. When we in coaching, when we talk about a SMART goal, generally, how far out is that long-term SMART goal set?
3 to 6 months.
The sweet spot science tells us 3 to 6 months, but it can be a little more, it can be a little less. It's up to the client. And whenever we're setting goals with clients, we're in the behavioral change business. So what type of goals do we set? They're smart and they're
Realistic.
realistic. That's one of the criteria in SMART, but are they outcome goals or are they
They're action oriented goals.
action oriented goals? And by that, we're getting to that behavioral. We want our goals to be behavioral in nature. You know, outcome goal is like a number on a scale. I want to lose 25 pounds. And what an outcome goal sets you up for is failure in my mind, because if I want to lose 25 pounds in 4 months, that's doable. And I get on the scale at the end of 4 months and I lost 23 pounds, I failed. But if we were able to reframe that goal, you want to lose 25 pounds and reframe it in a manner, okay, let's say you lost that 25 pounds. What are you doing? What's your life look like? And all of a sudden they lost that 25 pounds. They're getting 150 minutes of moderate to, I forget what it was already, but that amount of exercise. every plate of food they ate looks like usplate.gov. Those are behaviors. Those are things we do. I still lost 23 pounds. I'm reaping all the health benefits. I lost 23 pounds and I don't feel like a failure. That's one of the big things with switching those goals to behavior goals. And we got that long-term goal. So what do we do from there?
Create an action step.
Those action steps, those short-term goals. What are you going to do in the next week, 10 days to get you to where you want to do? The way I frame it in my mind is we backwards plan, you know, with that veteran, we connect that long-term goal to their vision, to their map, to their values. And then we're going to do some backwards planning. What are you going to do today? And their first step may be as simple as, you know, I got to go home and I got to look up gyms that are on my way to work. And that could be that first action step. And then anytime we're working with those goals, we're always going to explore perceived barriers, develop possible contingency plans, explore real and encounter barriers, develop those contingency plans, be able to assess confidence and importance. And we're always mapping every goal that they make. We're always linking it back to their values, to their vision, mapping it back to the map.
I have a question in regards to the example you gave.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a client that is like, say, focused on a number of like, I want to lose X pounds in this amount of time, how do you, without telling them exactly what to do, reframe their goal to be more of a behavioral goal versus a number weight loss type goal?
With those action questions, you know, because that outcome goal, that could be very smart. Is 25 pounds specific? Yes. Is 25 pounds measurable? Yes. Where we lose it is the action, you know, the act of losing the weight. We're going to hone in on that. How are you going to do it? And I use the other example sometimes if somebody comes in and tells you, I want to run a marathon in 6 months. They don't give you the time, but sometimes you can reframe it by, okay, you ran your marathon. It's 2 weeks later. What are you doing? You know, being able to figure out, you know, sometimes we pick up these big outcome goals because we think it's going to change our lives. And we're trying to reframe it in a manner that they're going to get some sustainable behavior changes. So maybe they train, they get up to where they're running those 22 miles on Sundays, 2 weeks before the marathon, and then they're during their taper phase, they run their marathon. Are they still active after that marathon? And we're trying to reframe that to where those behaviors are sustainable and they carry them with them. And one of the things that an example I use with a lot of people is Weight Watchers, Noom, see advertisements all over the place. 98% success rate for all these programs with all these outcome goals, guaranteed to lose 40 pounds, blah, blah, blah. And that's just what they are. They're that outcome goal. They're a program just designed to get that. And they lose the weight. And I bet you if you go back in 6 months after that, check on those clients because they were working a program. They weren't working lifestyle changes. They weren't working sustainable changes. Their weight's going to be right back to where it was or higher. I think I even read a paper on that somewhere at one point in time. That's why we really focus on making them as behavioral in nature as we can with the clients. Because then it's kind of like we're trying to work ourselves out of a job. Because if we do outcome goals and somebody goes out, they hit that goal in 6 months, they come back in 3 months because it wasn't sustainable. I need coaching again to reach that goal. So we're really a different type of field in the fact that we're trying to empower people not to need us. Did that help, Nicole? Or was I preaching?
Yeah, so it's okay for them to have that goal of 25 pounds. It's
Yeah.
just, so we're not trying to change the goal. We're just trying to give them more perspective on.
And reframe it. And I would say, even if you can, they can, because people are going to latch onto like that number on a scale. But eventually through coaching, through reflection, through the process, they're going to reframe it like, yeah, I still want to run that marathon, but my real goal is to have a sustainable activity level after that, and to be eating better and to feeling my body and everything. There's people that coach around diabetes, that's a number on a scale. They want to get down below 6.2. But we're working them towards, that diet and exercise thing is the way they do it. And through the coaching process, one of the things we do too is you're going to find out why they want to run that marathon. It's going to be linked to their values, to their map, to their mission, aspiration, and purpose. And through linking it back to that, you can expand that out and get them to see bigger picture and get it down to the sustainable stuff, things that we can really keep going. And it is a process. Charlie, Haley, got anything to add to that? I think that is a no.
Nope.
All right. Who remembers the trans-theoretical model of change? This is the start of the coaching process. I see Carrie nodding her head. How many stages are there in it?
Is it 7? 6?
6. And we got, what do you think the first stage is?
Pre-contemplation.
Pre-contemplation.
Pre-contemplation. We're not thinking about thinking. We may not even be aware that we got to make a change. Change isn't likely to happen in 6 months. Is someone in pre-contemplation appropriate for coaching?
I mean, they're not inappropriate. They just aren't necessarily ready. So you might not get very far.
You might not get very far, but in pre-contemplation, if we're using the coaching, if we're demonstrating the coaching qualities, we're able to help them identify their values, their vision, their map. We're using open and inquiry. We're using our reflections, and maybe even throwing out some brainstorming and some different things. We may be able to move them from pre-contemplation to contemplation. And in contemplation, there may be some ambivalence yet, but we're thinking about thinking. We can still see the benefits of change, and we can see the benefits of just staying the way I am because I'm wonderful. But that's that contemplation stage. After contemplation, what are we doing?
Preparation.
Preparation. We're getting ready to. We've prepared and we're ready, and now we're gonna
Action.
action, the act of doing. All right, we've done it. We've sustained it for a while. So now we're
Maintenance.
maintaining. And sometimes we slip up. And we can have a little relapse, recycle, start over again. And, this trans-theoretical model of change, it's a valuable tool for the coach to do with the fact that we're there to meet the client where they're at. Our understanding of that helps inform us on where they're at. We also realize that that's a circular model. People can jump from an area to area, but it's not there for us to put labels and judgments on clients. Somebody's in pre-contemplation. what it does is just changes our approach a little bit. We gotta spend a little more time finding out what's important to this person, what they value, how what's their intrinsic motivation. And you may have someone there is there to see a coach because the doctor said they should come there. I don't know what they want me to do. I'm just here because my doctor said I should. Or out there in private practice, maybe it's somebody that makes too much money and I just want to burn $100 talking to somebody. But you gotta figure that out to help move them forward. And that brings us into, part of that coaching process is looking for that perspective shift. That language, that perspective, I believe, from my point of view. And oftentimes those people have negative perspectives like I can't, I'm not gonna, I shouldn't. And those can create real internal barriers and blocks for coaches. And we're going to listen for that language, that perspective shift with our clients, because oftentimes it helps us move them forward. And some of the ways that we can explore those negative perspective with somebody is just ask somebody, how might someone else see it? How might an older, wiser self see something? What's the opposite belief of what you got there, buddy? And we're just working on that perspective shifts. Oh, I'm going to give you guys a little practice question on. Oh, give me a second. I'll get it loaded. Practice question on process. I invite you to just look it over, whatever your style is. Anybody got an answer? We got a C, we got a B. And we got a D. And I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to leave it up for a little bit. The correct answer is D. Why did you rate your confidence a 6 and not a 4? And I'm just going to go over it a little bit. But, the way I do an exam, I'm going to read the answers for first. And it says, why did you rate your confidence a 6 out of 4? How come you rated yourself a 6, not an 8? What are you going to do to increase your confidence from a 6 to a 10? Are you sure you can achieve your goal? And automatically from that, I'm going to eliminate A, because how could you, are you sure you can achieve your goal? That doesn't sound very coachy to me. And then, what are you going to do to increase your confidence from a 6 to a 10? Again, that just doesn't sound very coachy to me. And then I'm going to go ahead and read the question. A 40-year-old man speaks with a coach on the phone as part of a lifestyle management program to decrease stress. During today's session, the client sets a goal of practicing relaxation exercise that consists of deep breathing, light stretching, and visualization for at least 15 minutes daily. Based on his goal, the coach asked the client to rate the confidence on a 10-point scale, 0 not confident, 10 extremely confident. The client says a 6. So right away in this question, we got to narrow down the focus. A 40-year-old male, fluff. On the phone, fluff. What type of program, fluff. Okay, now we're getting into some of the meat. The client sets a goal of practicing relaxation that consists of all that. And then we get down here to the real focus of the question. That motivational ruler, and that motivational ruler is used to help elicit that change talk from our client. And then the reason the answer is D, why did you rate your confidence a 6 and not a 4? And that's the better answer than C. How come you rated yourself a 6 and not an 8? Is because of that strength-based perspective that we had. We're going to ask them, what made you rate your confidence a 6? Because we're going to pull out some strengths from why is it a 6? They're going to explain to us why is it a 6 and not even lower. And then from pulling out those strengths, we can ask the follow-up question. We can reflect some of those strengths back to them and ask that follow-up question. What would it take to bounce that 6 up to a 7? And that's just a little bit of an example on the coaching, the exam, and the types of questions that are on it. Just went through coaching process in about 30 minutes. Anybody got any questions on the process? What it really entails? Where are we at, George, on time?
Perfection. We can either jump into more or we can take a break and come back and start
And
diving
remember,
into more.
that process section, 47 to 53% of the exam.
Snap. Better wake up. It's good stuff.
I could use 5 minutes. Who else could use 5? Who could use 10 minutes?
10 it is. So let's come back at 15 after whatever time zone you're in. Wish I could like make Charlie's face something funny, add like a purple mustache or something just to differentiate ours. I gotta figure out how to get out of your
Out of my head, bro. Get out of my head, bro.
head there, dude. You didn't show us your hair tonight.
What's that?
We didn't get to see your hair tonight.
No.
Nope.
No, just no. Oh, we got everybody back. We at least got a quorum.
Yeah, we're good. Roll with it.
We're good now. Oh. Would you believe there's 2 more content, two more parts of the exam? We had the biometric stuff that was 17 to 23%. You had the coaching process, which makes up a big chunk of the exam, 47 to 53%. And we're gonna quickly go over these next 2, but the next one is 17 to 23% of the exam, and that's the coaching structure. And when we're talking about structure, it's kind of broke down into two different areas. You got your preparation and your initial session, and then we have our, call them routine ongoing sessions, and a closing session when that coaching relationship is going to come to some sort of closure. But we're going to start with the overarch, we're going to start with that preparation and initial session, you know. And it's important, you know, even in our early sessions that, you know, we help build that trust and rapport again with the client, create that safe space, that safe container. We're going to really in that early session, that initial session, or maybe it's in a phone call before, we're going to help clarify what coaching is and what coaching is not. And just really establish those expectations for the coaching relationship and invite that client to ask those questions. It's, call it front loading or everything, but it's good to get all these expectations, to get some sort of, you know, agreement in place in that early session on what's going to happen throughout the coaching process as we go through it. And that coach preparation, you know, maybe you're reviewing client materials, maybe you're working for an agency and you're able to review some client notes. Maybe you sent them to PHI ahead of time and you're able to review that, or you use another assessment tool. Preparation also includes confirming that location, the time, the date, the place, all that good stuff. And a big part of preparation is preparing self in the space that you're going to meet with the client in, whether if it's a phone conversation, making sure it's free of distractions for you, and preparing self, you know, that mindful moment, that mindful awareness. And maybe you're working busy and you got to be able to figure out something. What's your little cue that you got to be with the next place? Is it when you open the door to the waiting room to go out to grab your next client? But being able to do that in a manner that you can truly be there and be present for the clients. That initial session, we're going to establish that rapport. You're going to, that fully present, holding the space. You know, explain the coaching process, and at the same time you're explaining the coaching process, explore that motivation, their understanding of coaching, and explore that agreement. And discuss the coach client roles in the relationships with them. And then also in that early sessions, you know, usually session 1, session 2, depending on how long you're coaching for, you're going to mission, values, vision, that map piece, possibly, you know, explore and assess where the client's at and where they want to go. And you can use that PHI, that's a good assessment tool, or you can use another assessment tool that you may have, or you could just use your coaching skills to really explore with them where they're at, where they want to go. And explore with the client and setting that, you know, that smart long-term goal and and those action steps. And you're going to exploring accountability, resources, challenges, developing contingency plans. That's all examples, you know, you do. And then you got those routine, ongoing follow-up sessions that are going to go on and are going to take the majority of your coaching. And, you know, we get that long-term goal after one of those early sessions, first, second session, generally speaking. It could be later, depending on how long you got to spend in exploring that mission and values. You know, we talked about that client in the pre-contemplation. Maybe you're spending more time there, but we're really going to be constantly, as we go into these ongoing sessions, linking back to that values, that mission. And when they come in for those ongoing sessions, we got to explore with them, are they staying with their same focus area? Did they switch it up on us? Did something happen? And, you know, if they select something different to focus on, we got to explore and reconnect that to the vision and values, revisit checking on that long-term goal. If it's the same area, if it's a different area, again, we explore and reconnect back to their vision and values. We got to assess their importance with them. You know, how is this area important and how does this relate back to your vision and values? And then we probably got to set up a new long-term goal with them. And that may not be the norm, but you know, we encourage client autonomy, so we got to be prepared for that. The client can change directions with us. Like I say about coaching, you know, there's always the two experts in the room. Client's an expert on themselves. We allow the client to drive. Coach has got a map to help guide, but we're guiding not necessarily to tell them to turn left here, but we're guiding, and our map is helping us if the client makes a U-turn that we can keep up with them. So we got to be prepared for that when we get into those ongoing sessions. And those routine ongoing sessions that check in, how did it go? Reestablishing that area of focus, what went well, what didn't go well, what they learned, what's next. You know, same goal, same focus, and what their takeaways are. And then we also got that final closing session, and this can be defined by different things. Maybe it's they bought a package of 8 sessions. Maybe it's they've reached their goal. Maybe it's they've decided to disengage coaching and they were a decent person and came in for an appointment to tell you in person. But regardless, you got to have final and coaching sessions. But regardless of the reason for the termination, you really want to try and reflect with the client on the progress, the successes, their lessons learned, their growth, you know, really leave them empowered if we can. And work with them, you know, that final session. I did it. I achieved what I set out to do. Help them develop that plan for sustainment, maintenance. You know, understand those stages of change, and it's likely someone may encourage some relapse. And those workaround plans. Get those client takeaways, and always, you know, leave them with that open invitation. And Mike Tyson said something that, you know, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, all our clients will have plans, but they're going to live life. And I don't know anything that punches harder than life. So, you know, we got to be there, and we have that invitation open and ready for them to come back to coaching. And I got a question for you around this. I'm going to share my screen again. In preparing to set up your business, you must mandatorily have key information in your coaching agreement. Which is the following is mandatory to include? One of the ways to look at it is just to, and there's, Haley's nodding. Haley knows what it is. All right, Haley's going to tell us the answer.
It looks like most of the class knows what it is.
Yeah.
E.
What are you saying?
E.
E. Someone want to tell me why it's E? Maybe with your thought process behind E?
You got to put the question back up for me to be able to tell you that, because I don't
Okay.
remember that much.
All right, I got you.
You can do that, then I can answer it.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, because the client and coach responsibilities would be the most important piece out of all of those for that to be in the coaching agreement. What are you responsible for, and what are they responsible for?
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, you got like a coaching agreement. that may be included. A coaching agreement may include the coach's area of specialty or their training programs they completed, but that's not required. The key word in the question is really that mandatory piece, you know, those coaching, client and coach responsibilities. And who guarantees outcomes? Especially, can you guarantee somebody's going to achieve their goal? And that's just a way to set yourself up for possibility of some legal action, which segues us right into the next topic. Ethics and legal. And remember, the biometrics was 17 to 23%. Coaching process was 47 to 53%. Coaching structure was 17 to 23%. So somebody that's really good at math, tell me what's the parameters, what percentage of the exam is ethics and legal? It's the last category. I'm just kidding. I can't even do that math in my head. It's 7 to 13% of the exam will be ethics and legal. And a good way to start with this is on the NBHWC webpage. They have a code of ethics. Coaching has a code of ethics that if you go over that, it's probably one of the best sources to study for that. And, you know, ethics, it's a critical component to help us initiate and maintain that coach-client relationship. It allows us to maintain integrity, which it's just essentially, it's just critical to, you know, all our coaching sessions. But you really want to be able to review that NBHWC Code of Ethics and the NBHWC, I say NBHWC, it's National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches, and their scope of practice. And we want, when we talk about that ethics and legal considerations, you know, we're talking about that coaching agreement. We're talking about, you know, those clear and appropriate sensitive boundaries, being able to, that overview, that agreement that we go over with them, the roles and the expectations and the context around that coaching. Being able to honor that confidentiality, you know, and versus what is legal, you know, what's our duty to report? Some of you may have higher level licensures that, you know, that duty to report, you need to disclose that to a coaching client, you know, if you're a state mandated reporter for, you know, harm to children, harm to elders and different things like that. That's all considerations that you have. Another ethical legal concern is that documentation, you know, how do you keep the health records? The sessions notes documented, stored, managed, the HIPAA compliance piece. You know, and we're going to make clear during that initial sessions, you know, about the confidentiality, maybe including some of that in that coaching agreement. Make clear how you store your records. Make clear the nature of the relationship. Set those expectations up. Who's going to guarantee outcomes? You know, just from that last question, you know, that'd be an ethical consideration if you're guaranteeing outcomes. And set it up from the beginning, you know, what's the termination of the coaching relationship? How do you know it's over? And then, you know, things to look for on the exam, some common ethical failings or downfalls for people is maybe we got multiple hats. Maybe we're a coach, but we're, you know, I don't know, an Avon salesperson too. And the coach mentioned something and we see that ours are in. Is Avon even still a thing? I don't know. My mom sold it for a little while when I was a kid, but we're not going to try and sell our own products or other services, and maybe even something a little more realistic. You know, I'm a coach. I'm also TRX certified, and I got a class that I run at the gym, and the coach is there for moving the body. And I say, not moving, they're trying to be more active. And I just, hey, I teach a class down at such and such, you know, 24-hour fitness Wednesdays at 5 o'clock on TRX. You should try it out. You know, we're not going to be doing that. That's an ethical consideration. That those record protections, again, you know, the HIPAA, protecting that personal health inventory information. Relationships. You gonna date your clients? You gonna date your clients' brother, sister, mother, father? Haley's all about it. And then, you know, those confidentiality boundaries, you know, your obligation to the client, and maybe you're employed by a larger healthcare system versus your obligation to that healthcare system. And that duty to report, that safety versus knowledge and unethical behavior. And just a brief overview of some of the things demonstrated in the Code of Ethics. You know, there is conflicts of interest, you know, those dual relationships that we're talking about, the selling your own services, your conduct as a professional, you know, if you sit for, you pass the exam, you're a certified coach, you're going to conduct yourself as such. You know, that confidentiality and privacy. And another ethical consideration that we got is that continuing development. Part of the Code of Ethics for coaches is constantly looking to better yourself, whether it's continuing education, getting mentoring, you know, seeking consultation. And for this one, I'm going to share. Oh, got a little dilemma that I'm going to share. And then I'm going to give you some areas that you think it would fall under. If you look at this, is this a conflict of interest, of professional conduct, continuing development, confidentiality? Someone can just speak it into the room.
What are you
Yeah,
asking?
that's a big old confidentiality brief.
Confidentiality. Why, Carrie?
Because you got to have it back up on there. I can't remember all the things whenever you
I'm
take
sorry.
it. I should be able to remember, but I cannot. I got to read it. So, she's the coach for this person. She's also a nurse in the primary care clinic, so that's fine. But when reviewing the PHI and discussing the professional clinical care, Sam tells Anna that he stopped taking his heart meds. So now she has her nurse hat on and knows that he did not take his medicine and stopped that and changed some of his habits. And at lunch, she then goes and tells his dietitian, which totally breaches confidentiality, to go speak to his dietitian to share information she was not privy to share. She's not even his doctor in any circumstance whatsoever. Was just his coach, just all over the place. Bad news. Bad news.
Yeah, what could Anna have done differently in this situation?
Maybe refer Sam to go see his dietitian and discuss reasons why he stopped taking his medication.
Yeah, and we got tools as a coach, elicit, provide, elicit at this point in time. Anna's got some knowledge behind her. She, elicit from Sam what Sam knows about, the risk and possibility of not taking his heart medication. Provide a little information if Sam doesn't have it clear, then elicit from Sam what he's taken away from it. And, then maybe elicit from Sam, whether he consulted with a medical professional on this. Provide Sam with a little information how it may be in Sam's best interest to consult with a medical professional on this. And then elicit from Sam whether he's gonna possibly. But then again, we're gonna maintain our confidentiality with the client. And we're still not gonna disclose it, but we're gonna use our skills to guide the client in the right direction. And that's the 7 to 13% of the exam is going to be on ethics and legal and making that right decision. And the biggest resource for that is the code of conduct, or not the code of conduct, code of ethics, and the scope of practice. And you want to review those. Any questions on the four areas that are on the exam? Cool beans. Turn it over to George.
All right. So I think as I was listening to that, I've decided we're gonna make that a Jeopardy game sometime. And make teams, make y'all compete. Okay, any questions regarding the exam? I know that kind of becomes like a thing of anxiety for people. Most of you here were planning on taking it, right?
I was gonna say, how many people are planning on taking the exam? Everybody. Okay.
I tell you what, look at me. I passed it.
That's right.
Y'all know me.
Y'all know me.
Don't let looks deceive you. He's a smart man. Okay. So we will move on to you want to talk about the website, Charlie? And then we can kind of go over requirements for this course and how to start looking into registering for the exam if you haven't.
How many people are now familiar with the website and the National Board's website? Is anybody not familiar with it? So really here, we just go to the home screen. You can come over to board exam, am I eligible, ready to apply, exam prep resources. I will say whenever I took the exam, they did not have their practice exam here. So this is something that is new. So I can't say anything to it or not on whether that is a good resource. But, I would say it can't be bad. I would definitely take advantage of everyone that you can. And then anyway, so these are those pieces. Let's see, does anybody have any questions about how to register for the exam? Because literally there's an exam coming up right around the corner. I would highly recommend, if y'all can make it happen, to take the exam as soon as possible.
I will say that my reservation in taking it soon is that you have to have your 50 sessions in And I know Margaret had pointed out that you can pay a little bit for an extension, but you still, I think I read that the extension was only a few extra weeks to get all those sessions in. So I'm not sure exactly how by the deadline to have all those sessions completed or to know where to start.
Or to know where to start.
Yeah. That's part of our conversation with my mentor.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think we can talk about some of those things as well, because I think overall, where to start is, really just get the coaching sessions in at the end of the day. I know that they talk about don't use family and friends. I think don't use family and friends if you're just goofing around, right? Like if you're actually coaching people and getting sessions in, I say count anybody that you possibly can. Are we still recording? Probably shouldn't put that on recording, but I don't really care, because I would argue that those are the hours that you need, right? Because now you're able to kind of grow and start developing your own model and getting comfortable in that. So let me see. So man, now I don't know where to go. So exam prep resources. So I did have up here different exam prep resources. I will say if you go on Facebook and you search the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching, you have all kinds of study groups up here. You can join any one of them. Most of them will be more than willing to have you in there. They do different questions and different things like that. I will say this is the one that I used that was around even whenever I took the exam, and this is the one that I used whenever I took the exam to study with. It has a practice exam. It kind of walks you through each section just like Todd did, but just kind of online. And then it has different prompting questions, and then it has a exam here. Now, say they do offer certain types of discounts and things like that. I know none of y'all are federal employees, but I know like the VA gets a discount through this group. So, just an option. Maybe if you have a spouse that works at the VA, they could get a discount, however that works, and then use the code to do that. But I used it. I thought it was good. And then also I wanted to share this resource. So the University of Minnesota might not really help with the exam, but whenever you all are really coaching folks out in the field, they actually have a well-being circle of health that is online, and you can send to people, via email and different things like that, and it can have the results right then. So it's just another resource to be able to have, and you can take their well-being assessment tools. Okay. So does anybody have any questions, feel uncomfortable with at least applying for the exam at this point? Does everybody know where to go to get everything that they need for that?
So I just wanted to add in on the 50 sessions. I know that's kind of a concern for most people once they finish the course. Couple options. One, like he mentioned, family, friends, more practice the better. But I would recommend utilizing this cohort. So keep in touch with these people, utilize each other, and keep coaching. You don't have to necessarily coach the same person that you've been coaching. Try somebody different in here. Maybe even try the whole cohort and try on some group coaching skills as well. But it's just something to keep in mind. If you do a group coaching session, it only counts as one session. It doesn't count as 5 or 6 different sessions. Other recommendation is call Todd, coach him away. I'm just kidding. You can though. Call us. We're happy to be coached as well to help you get to your number.
Free coach.
Well, let me ask, how many of you all would like for us to set you all up into groups moving beyond this so that you all could still practice? And would y'all take advantage of it? And maybe it's not something y'all answer right now. And then maybe you all can email me after this. And then we can set it up for those who say yes. And I mean, that's always been kind of the goal as well, is to kind of have those types of things ongoing beyond this to help build and grow. And then we can also help with exam prep during that time. So that way y'all can focus on just getting your 50 sessions. And then maybe we can send y'all other videos, find like one-sheeters on studying for those biometric data, things like that. And we can kind of get y'all some of that information. So if y'all would be interested in that, to kind of continue this beyond and then try to get our 50 sessions in before that date by using our group. And then we can also help with some of that exam prep. And then that way everybody hopefully would be able to take this next exam, and then we can help go through it. Everybody can, do their mindfulness practices right before they walk into the exam, holding hands with Todd, and he'll be there to cheer you on right when you come out. So if that is helpful, please reach out to us. I think that would be, reach out to myself or Haley, and then we will set that up and we'll kind of have that ongoing. And then for the requirements of this course, ultimately, I haven't talked to all the mentors yet, so I don't want to say it, but ultimately the course is over, right, at the end of this day. And then we will be able to give you all your document that says that you passed or are not passed, but you passed your PSA. And then you can actually start collecting hours now. Doesn't mean you graduate the course. It just means that you have your PSA that you graduated with. You'll still need the certificate, but you can start collecting your hours once you get that PSA that's graded. I would imagine everybody's PSAs would be graded. I hadn't talked to everybody, but once we get that, ultimately you can start collecting your hours thereafter. So if y'all email me and say, that y'all want to be set up as a group, y'all could be starting as early as next week if you wanted to. So anyway, so any questions at all about this entire process or anything?
Do the 50 sessions have to be recorded or recorded or anything?
No, it does have to be it doesn't have to be recorded. It has to be recorded, recorded. There's a log in that website, that the main website that I just showed. Actually, I'll drop this link in here because it talks about the 50 sessions and how to document it. But literally the sessions are on good faith, for the most part.
Hey, Charlie, if I might,
Yeah, go ahead.
they gave me like 30 days. I didn't have the 50 sessions done by the time I was wanting, so I had to pay the extra money, and it was like 30 days. So I had to hustle pretty hard to get those in because they had to be, 50 sessions, at least 20 minutes. And so that's a lot to do if you don't have a network of folks to work with.
That's right. I mean, it is challenging.
They changed the 20 minutes to 30 minutes too.
Oh, okay.
Right. I completely forgot. Thanks, Todd. That is.
Oh, yeah. So then there's 10 more minutes that you got added to your time frame.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We've been saying that that's a new standard that came out with the new competencies. When did that come out? Not too long ago. Wasn't long ago.
And now I'll just worry about making sure I have CEUs.
That's
I don't want to do that again. But it can be done because I did it. So going with Todd's thing.
Take a snack and take a break. Don't work through the break. Give yourself a minute if you can to just
What,
relax.
in the exam? There's a break in the exam?
Shut up, Todd.
I will say the exam, I don't know if Todd alluded to this or if Haley did, but for me, whenever I approach the exam, in a way that, man, now I forget what I was going to say, but ultimately, you have to really think about how they're asking the question, right? So it's not really so much a lot of the times about the content. It's literally about how they're asking the question. And I always use this example. It may not be an example that'll be on here, but an example is sometimes they'll say things like, what is your first step whenever you're working with a suicidal patient? And then another way to ask that question that could be a different answer would be, what is your first action, right? Or what is your first, you know, step that you would do? So basically, the first step that you would do would be to provide some type of, sympathetic response, right? Whereas your first action might end up being that you're going to have to contact crisis support, right? So it could be two different answers in the way that they ask the question. And sometimes being able to focus on those practice exams and really focused on how they're asking those questions, that's really where I spent most of my time in studying that. And I read the coaching psychology manual. Well, I read a lot of the books, but that coaching psychology manual, in my opinion, is the best one to focus your attention on. If you are not much of a reader and you had one book to focus on, that, in my opinion, would be the book to focus on. And we have that. If you don't have that, let us know. We can get that to you.
Are you able to send that in a like PDF or a Google? Because I was going to order it because I was having troubles with it on the website.
I'll try to send it to you. I know it is a large file, but I'll see if I can send it to you as a PDF.
Thanks.
So no other questions about the exam? What about any other questions about anything else?
Can you include the link to the University of Minnesota, that whatever you had up?
Yep. I'll drop that in the link or the chat right now.
Yep.
Did y'all want me to drop this one that I use for a study guide? Or not a study guide, but a practice exam. I'll drop that in here too. I think it's a little bit more pricey. It was not as pricey before, but now it is. Okay, so what about anything else? Any other questions or comments or anything that we need to focus on before the next class?
What time is the next class?
It is 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock on Saturday, on that Saturday.
That's Mountain Standard Time. So
Oh.
10 Central Time, 11 would be start for Eastern Time.
11. Okay.
Math is hard.
Math is hard. I had to think through all that.
4 hours again.
Yeah,
Yes, 4 hours. That one's 4 hours.
maybe.
Maybe. Well, I'll say we'll have a panel of people there, or we're trying to get a panel of people. We've had some people kind of back out, but hopefully we'll get some other people to fill in. And hopefully these will be people that you all can just ask questions to. We'll have some pre-questions that we'll send ahead of time. So think about people that are in the field. Some of the people that we know, and Haley, correct me if I'm wrong, that we know will be there is a doctor who is double boarded in psychiatry and obesity medicine. She's also going through law school right now. So she's also a lawyer, or working towards that. So she can answer some of the legal questions to an extent, because she's still in school for sure. And then now I forgot who else. Who was the other one right now?
There's going to be a PhD doctor. I almost said doctor, but I have to explain PhD, that I used to teach with at a university for coaching. So she's going to come as well. She also owns her own coaching business, so she may have some insights for you all as well. And then we're working on a few more. Basically, we want to make sure that we're providing a panel that can give you some insight as to how they integrate coaching into their careers and how they utilize it. How, maybe some of the barriers that they've hit, and they can kind of give some words of wisdom. And they're definitely there to answer questions as they talk. So you're welcome to jump in, ask them lots of questions. That's what they're there for. But we'll try to get you a good slew of folks, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, the goal was to try to find somebody for legal, right, to ask some legal questions too. I don't know if Dr. Helton will really fill those shoes, but maybe she'll be able to filter some of those questions. but she's also been through the same exact course that you all have been through as well inside the VA. She owns her own practice, so I think she'll be a good person to kind of talk to. But yeah, if you all think of questions that y'all want ahead of time, we're going to send questions ahead of time as well. So that way we can, facilitate it a little bit, and then you all have some freestanding questions and maybe build off of things as well.
I have another random question.
Do
Going back to the earlier conversation, talking about a client that maybe purchased a package and then you're terminating that relationship. If you are in, say, a private practice and you have like a package that a client has purchased and they choose after getting into it, like, oh no, this isn't really what I want. Is that something like, oh, you just hold on to those sessions or sessions for like if you decide to revisit and it's like a non-refundable situation, or do you work out some contract with a client that's like if you cancel you get this much of a refund, or how does that work in like when you're creating a contract with a client?
I would say, oh man, so basically you're saying that you had already X amount of sessions and then now you're halfway through or 2 sessions in and he's like, I'm done and I want to go use it on another service. Are you saying like he wants to just kind of be
Well,
done?
I'm guessing just saying like, well, I guess I can say this is VA related, but my husband had a situation where he had a client one time that was just like did a couple sessions and then he was like, I don't want to do coaching anymore. I'm done. But like in VA, it's whatever because that's just part of what they were offering them. But like in a private setting where you have like an exchange of funds and they're paying out of pocket, how does that work to not like kind of screw over the client or the coach because you've already established relationship and kind of gone through that process of like booking them? Do you guys do like a contract of like this is a service? I guess I mean I'm in sales, so I have a contract. If you cancel, there's fees to be, you don't get a refund, full refund. Like, do you do a contract like that when you enter in a relationship that's like a financial contract?
Absolutely. And you should spell it all out. So you would know all that ahead of time. So if they only came to 2 of those sessions, there should be an administrative fee that you charge on top of, everything, right? So you're not giving them the full refund back. But yeah, all that should be spelled out in your contract, and it's perfectly okay to spell that stuff out. And if you offer other services, I'll say that it's okay to offer those other services as long as it's well known ahead of time in those contracts. I know a lot of times, people are always like, it's taboo. You can't sell these other things. I think it's more that you can't be sneaky about it whenever it's really that way, right? It's more, if you have it up front and it's all, I have these services, I have these services, I have these services. That's perfectly okay, right? Like that's what we're supposed to be doing, offering multiple services, doing different things. But it's more about trying to make money on the back end of something that you don't, you're not really being upfront and honest about, right? It's not transparent. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess as I was talking through it, I was sort of answering my own question, just using business sense. But I thought about it when we were talking about terminating a client relationship, and then I started thinking about the financial side of that.
Yeah, I'll say the biggest financial barrier if you are in private practice that you will deal with the most will be no-shows. That's going to be your biggest thing. So you should always have a contingency plan, contract, whatever you want to say that says if you no-show me, I don't know how you want to do it in your contract. If you no-show once, it's free, or maybe it's a price or whatever. But then if you no-show me again, that's full price. And if you no-show me the third time, then it's full price and you can't come. Or however you want to do it in your business. But have a no-show policy, just because that will be your biggest headache all the time. Well, that's the biggest headache really in outpatient services is those types of things, right? And keeping your schedule. It'll be feast and famish, sometimes. Because there's going to be times that you're going to have a lot of referrals and there's going to be times that you're not going to have any. And, you know, that's whenever I talk about getting those contracts and having those 3 different things of revenue coming in, 3 different streams of it, just because it's just good business to have multiple streams of revenue coming in. And then the more contracts you have, the better, because then you can build in those types of things to say, you know, build in the no-shows, right?
I think overall, it really just comes down to how you want to structure your business, right? So he's gone through a lot of good examples, but at the end of the day, how are you going to set up your own contracts? Do you want it to be, hey, I can give you a 6-session package and the first 2 are completely just like for you to try it out. And after that first 2, if you're not enjoying it, we can null this contract. You'll have that opportunity for an out. But if you'd like to continue that 6-month contract or that 6-session contract stance, you basically just put it out ahead of time to keep yourself out of trouble long term. So you get to choose what your time is worth. You get to choose how you want to structure that business and how you want to structure that contract.
You even got to structure what are your session lengths? You know, the vast majority of people with that initial session, an hour, because you're going over some logistics, the vast majority of people, a half-hour coaching session is sufficient with most people, and structuring that too, because you're going to run into those chatty Cathys that are going to want more than that half hour, and you got to be compensated for your time.
So there's all different kinds of model. I'm sure you feel overwhelmed whenever you start to think about it. I know I get overwhelmed thinking about it. You know, so I don't know if everybody, maybe I'm just thinking out loud, but I get overwhelmed thinking about it, because, you know, it is like, how do you draw people in while also retaining them at a billable rate that they feel justified as a consumer and you feel justified by your time? And sometimes it's hard to do that because, you know, the average rate of reimbursement isn't that high. So or I should say it's all over the place, right? I shouldn't say it's that high. It's just all over the place, from $15 to, you know, $325. So it could be anywhere in between.
So here's my question to you guys. What do you see after you ace this exam? What is your next step in your career as far as implementing this? So you had a goal from the very beginning. Is it still the same? What's your goal moving forward now? How are you going to implement this? Not a rhetorical question. I'm for real asking because I don't remember. Nicole, I think you wanted to start a business, right?
I'm exploring my options. I'm intimidated. I want to, but I'm intimidated for sure. I really want to, I think I should say, because my mind changes, but I think I want to focus in on prenatal and postpartum care. And with that, I would really like to also get a certification for Pilates and offer both and do like the physical and more mental offerings for people going through pregnancy, but mostly postpartum and the healing process.
Very nice. I knew it had something to do with something, so. Sade, what are you gonna do with yours?
Well, right now I have a lot of issues around drug addiction. I counsel in church, basically with parents having, children dealing with addiction. So I would like to go in and do more on mental health and drug addiction, prevention and care.
Nice. Much needed. Brian, what you gonna do with yours?
So I'm trying to start a nonprofit for veterans and
Okay.
do like a wellness program for them. Teach them how to rock climb, ice climb, get them outdoors, just get their life back in order.
Hear that? Much needed as well. All right, I need to get my life back in order. Once you just said get back outside, I need that. Margaret, what are you gonna do with your coaching cert?
I'm working on starting a business that's health and
Mhm.
wellness focused on mid-level leaders and executives. So kind of a mix between health and wellness and leadership coaching.
Okay, good deal. All these areas are definitely needed. Coaching specifically, kind of help them. Is that a dog you're petting, Todd? I'm very confused. Okay, it's very dark.
We had a fire alarm die, so it started, or a fire smoke detector battery
Oh.
died, so it started chirping. Freaked her out.
That's no good. Carrie, what you gonna do with your cert?
Well, coincidentally, I just am a part owner in a gym that just took place, and so gonna use this through our gym, through health and wellness coaching for others, and I'm just gonna go where it leads me. I think I'm not sure exactly. I'm excited though.
Welcome to mine and Charlie's world. You just do it and see what
I'm
happens.
along for the ride. He's sort of steering the ship, and I'll be there.
I hear you. Jennifer, what are you gonna do with your cert?
And I am still here, y'all. I'm eating dinner time.
You're good.
I mean, I would love to bring it to foster youth and be able to apply it in some way like that, but I definitely need to spend some more time thinking about how exactly, but trying to make a career move soon. So maybe this will be the direction I go.
Nice.
Yeah.
So there you go. I asked you one just because I was curious if anything had changed over the course, but two, you, whether you know it or not, have created a network in coaching. You now have people that are specifically going to be coaching in a niche, right? You heard everybody had something kind of a little different, a little spin on their coaching. So utilize this, because what happens is I went through a course at the VA with coaching. I still keep in touch with many of the people that I was either in the course with or continued to coach with at the VA. And that network will get you far too if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you need people to help recommend what to do next. That network is there. They're also there to help you get your practice sessions, which I know can be hard. Yes, Todd.
Well, I was just gonna say that the network is there and growing, but also I think I want everybody to understand that coaching is still new enough that you guys will still be helping to define what coaching is going forward. And you're kind of like pioneers in this field. I mean, when we look at the coaching in comparison to a lot of the other helping fields, we're still that growing profession, and we're still defining it and professionalizing it as we move forward. And you guys are in on it. Maybe not the ground floor, but we ain't to the penthouse yet. I can tell you that.
I'm at the penthouse. Where are you at?
I'm in my basement.
Oh. All right. Well, this really was tonight more about getting you more so prepped for the exam, helping you to have the moments to ask questions if you need it. Okay, so things you need to think about right now. Did you get all of your 4 practice coaching sessions done? If so, good deal. If I'm your mentor, I'll get you your PSAs back, I promise. slacking big time. Let me know. Let me know when you want to set times to meet up if we haven't already talked. Ask your mentors questions. This is the time to do it. They're dedicated to you. And the mentorship can continue past this class. If you want to stay connected, talk to your mentor about it and talk about staying connected long term so that you have somebody you can lean on when you jump in and start utilizing this. So we are ending early tonight. I don't know if you guys noticed, but we don't have a lot more to add to it. If you don't have any questions about the exam, about the process of getting registered, or about getting your 50 sessions in.
I will add, if y'all do have questions about getting a business up and going, your websites, things like that, I also have a little bit of experience and can kind of finagle a little bit about that. So if y'all have questions about those things too, as y'all are growing, I know you may not have them tonight, but feel free to reach out to me. I'll always be a resource.
Oh, something else that Charlie knows a lot about now is registering in the Medicare world.
Oh, yeah.
So if you ever have questions about that stuff, we are currently in the midst of doing that ourselves. So we're happy to help.
Yes, absolutely. So if y'all are going through the Medicare process and want to be credentialed through Medicare, please reach out to me. There is some sticky situations of what you have to do, but ultimately you have to get your Medicare number, and then you also have to be affiliated with a Medicare facility. Just so happens that this gym has a Medicare number. Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
So anyway, just reach out to us if you have any questions, comments, or just general information. Let us know.
Is that true for other insurance is for any insurance coverage? Like, is there like a whole process like the Medicare process for like each individual insurance carrier or something?
Absolutely, and it's stupid and miserable. It makes absolutely no sense, but each one does. And even if like you want to go get credentialed, like TRICARE, you have to be, it's funny, they'll say, here goes the application to be a provider. Well, you have to apply to be in the system to be able to be a provider, but they don't tell you that, right? You have to do this part, that you have to do this part first, right? So like each one even has its own nuances like that you won't learn until you go through it. There are credentialing places that you could pay $100 to $150 to do. But you still end up doing all the work yourself for those places. They'll say, okay, we need these documents. Okay, well, now you got to get this document in this way. Oh, you got to upload it to this system. And oh, you got to go create your username here. And by the time you're done, you're like, why did I pay $100? I just walked through this entire process myself. But anyway, I'll say though, most insurance companies right now are not paying for it. Another thing is the CAQH, and I'll drop this in here, is I would go ahead and get a profile built for that as well. That is a place that a lot of insurance companies use to include Medicare and Medicaid, to where they go in and they view your profile, and it has to be up to date. That's how they also view the alignment of different things. But even though you have this, you still have to apply through those other channels. Go ahead, Todd. I thought you were going to say something.
Well, two things. The first is I think there's been some loosening of the rules around HSAs too, for them to be able to cover some of the coaching costs, which I think is a huge boon. And then I was just going to ask a question. What you just talked about, is that the MPI number, that the National Provider Identification Number?
So each person has an MPI number. If you do not have one, then you need to apply for one. If you set up your own clinic, then that clinic has to have its own NPI number. Not necessarily, but for Medicare it does, and maybe even some other insurance companies. And the reason why is because in certain insurance companies, let's just say actually we can use mental health therapy. So typically you have to be independently licensed to provide mental health therapy, but you can actually get your organization credentialed to where you could have master's level people working underneath that NPI number and underneath your independent license that you're signing off on everything for, and have master's level people who are not licensed to do. So it's an easier way to kind of track that whole process. And anyway, I could probably get into the weeds of all that, but I won't. It's ultimately just a bunch of jargon that insurance companies kind of have people jump through to get credentialed at the end of the day. So, but I'll even say with the HSA, like if you're going to take health savings account, you just can't take that credit card and run it on a regular credit card machine. You have to get set up to take health savings accounts. So that's another process, right? So it's a process on top of a process on top of a process to just kind of get set up to do these things. But again, I'm learning all of these processes and getting them set up myself. So I will most certainly be a resource for you all as y'all are building this out.
Everybody tired? A lot of yawning tonight. All
Okay.
right. Well, we are finished for tonight. If you have any other questions, please let us know. We have the graduation class coming next Saturday. Not this Saturday, next Saturday. So bring any questions, concerns, comments. We'll have the panel there for you to ask questions and talk to, and keep building your network up. And then, just do the thing. Then you go coach. Be coaches one day. All right. Y'all have a wonderful night. Sade, go to bed. I know you're tired.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.